Drew McIntyre signs a brand new big money WWE contract. The amount of tickets distributed so far for AEW All In at London's Wembley Stadium has been revealed. The backstage reaction within WWE to Tony Khan calling the company the Harvey Weinstein of professional wrestling has been revealed. Several injuries have been announced for AEW, including Darby Allin being hit by a New York City bus. The reason for Baron Corbin and Bron Breakker splitting up in the WWE draft has been revealed. An update on Tony Khan and his injury that he suffered at the hands of the Elite last week on AEW Dynamite, plus Swerve Strickland successfully defends his AEW World Championship for the first time. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off talking about Drew McIntyre and him finally putting pen to paper, quelling all of the speculation about his future and sticking around for WWE for several years to come. Now, WWE finally got a deal done for Drew McIntyre, and not a moment too soon for fans of the Scottish Warrior. Now, the news first broke on the Instagram page of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who posted a video of McIntyre being delivered a Scottish Claymore sword to congratulate him for re-upping with WWE. It was later confirmed by Fightful Select, who reported that McIntyre's contract would have expired within a month, but he and WWE were finally able to negotiate a multi-year big money deal. Now, Fightful notes that more contracts are expected to be announced soon, many of which will also involve multiple years and significant sums. PW Insider also confirmed the news on their website, adding the detail that McIntyre and WWE arrived at a deal 2 to 3 days ago that both sides are very happy with the result of the negotiations. They further confirmed the multi-year nature of the contract. One source believes McIntyre is now locked in for approximately the next 3 years, and reported that the video from Johnson was recorded actually a while ago in anticipation that a deal would get done. Now, McIntyre, in terms of his more immediate future, he's not expected back on television right away as he's nursing a hyperextended elbow. They worked through WWE's UK tour last week, something PW Insider reports won him a great deal of respect within the company backstage. Of course, McIntyre returned to WWE in 2017, briefly spending some time in NXT before jumping to the main roster the following year, where he's been an integral part of WWE's product ever since. Reports emerged in May last year that McIntyre was frustrated with the lack of communication from WWE following the announcement of its merger with UFC, and that his contract was up in early 2024. The newly formed TKO Group Holdings took its time re-signing him, only reaching out to him in March, but it now seems that the Scottish Warrior is with WWE for the long haul. If PW Insider's report about a 3-year deal is accurate, his new contract would take him into 2027, the 10-year anniversary of his return to the company. So what are your thoughts on McIntyre sticking around? Is this surprising? Is it not surprising? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Let me know your thoughts as always in the comment section below. Now, a bit of an update when it comes to AEW All In at London's Wembley Stadium. Of course, All Elite Wrestling will be looking to replicate the success of 2023's All In London event when the company returns to Wembley Stadium on August 25th. The company announced at the very end of the 2023 event that they would be returning to the English capital the following year, with Khan looking to make the marquee event a tradition in AEW's calendar. However, it would likely be tough to beat last year's total of 81,035 tickets distributed for the 2023 event. According to Dave Meltzer in this past week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, the 2024 event is already selling well despite it being 4 months away at the time of recording. Meltzer stated that All In 2024 has recently topped 41,000 tickets sold, which is currently set to be the third largest wrestling event in the history of England after All In 2023 and WWE SummerSlam from 1992. If the entire UK was included, it would be the 4th largest event, as WWE's 2022 Clash at the Castle event in Wales would take the 3rd spot. According to WrestleTix, the arena, or stadium should I say, is currently set up to hold just over 50,000 fans, as not all sections of Wembley Stadium have been put on sale. On top of this, the site map shows a different stage setup to 2023, as a larger entrance ramp is currently set to be situated at one of the goal ends of the stadium, as opposed to the 2023 setup, where the entrance ramp was situated in front of the Wembley dugout. This means that the eventual final setup will likely not surpass last year's crowd, but with 4 months to go and a lot of big things still to unfold in All Elite Wrestling, All In 2024 could end up being one of the most successful events in company history. So we'll have to wait and see indeed how that plays out. Now, a lot of people were talking about Tony Khan's comments about WWE last week as he did several interviews surrounding AEW and the NFL draft. And one of his comments about WWE and a comparison to Harvey Weinstein caught a lot of criticism online. Now, the backstage reaction from people in both WWE and AEW to Tony Khan calling WWE the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling has emerged. During an appearance on the NFL Network during the NFL draft a few days ago, Khan said, quote, "AEW, we've been doing this for 5 years. We are the most successful sports startup since the AFL pre-merger. There has not been a challenger brand that has gained as much market share as AEW in many, many years. We are like the Pepsi of pro wrestling. We're up against an evil juggernaut. WWE is our competitor. That's who we're facing. AEW is like the Pepsi of pro wrestling. WWE is like the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling. I'm really proud of what we do down here." Now, Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer has now said that he's talked to people in both WWE and AEW who have reacted to those comments. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Alvarez said, quote, "I talked to people in both companies, and I will say this about what he said. I can tell you from talking to people in AEW, obviously the WWE people thought it was ridiculous that he said it, but I heard people in AEW saying the same thing. A lot of it. When people in WWE and when people in AEW who have a lot of friends in WWE see Tony accusing the entire company is evil, we are battling an evil company, a lot of people take exception to that. The truth is in the middle. It's not only Vince, but it is certainly not the entire company." So what are your thoughts on what Tony Khan said? Did he take it too far, or do you think his comments are justified? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. Now, AEW's having quite a deal with injuries at the moment. And let's start off talking about Darby Allin, because, of course, Darby Allin is known for taking a lot of risks, both in and outside of the ring. When he's performing in AEW, he's diving off ladders through panes of glass. And when he gets some free time, he jumps over his own house in a car and does stunts on a tricycle. Now, Darby has been out of action since the Big Business edition of AEW Dynamite in March after he broke his foot during a match with Switchblade Jay White, which ultimately cost him his chance to climb Mount Everest. And now Darby has yet another injury to deal with. Darby Allin took to Instagram to say that he had been hit by a bus. Despite the severity of the situation, Darby Allin was still able to catch a show on Broadway for American artist Raymond Pettibon. He said, quote, "That awkward moment when you're crossing the street in New York with a broken foot and get hit by a bus," he wrote. "Least I can have a good time with Raymond Pettibon and catch a Broadway show." Now, before his broken foot, Darby was on course to have one of his most successful years. He won the AEW Tag Team Championships with Sting on February 7 by defeating Big Bill and Ricky Starks in a Tornado Tag Team match before successfully defending the titles against the Young Bucks in the main event of AEW Revolution on March 3rd. With their win over Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, Darby Allin and Sting ended their run as a tag team with a 100% win rate, as Sting would officially retire from wrestling following the result of the event. Darby was gifted Sting's bat after the Icon had called it quits, but that bat is now in possession of Jay White, who has been parading it around on television since injuring Darby at Big Business. Now, as I said, it's not the only injuries that AEW is dealing with right now, because they've got quite a lot, which includes not only Darby Allin, but also a bit of an update when it comes to some former champions as well. Again, not good stuff for AEW. So Fightful Select is reporting that they have learned that former AEW TBS champion Julia Hart is set to be out of action for an undisclosed amount of time. Now, Hart had been out of action during the build-up to AEW Revolution in March, but she did make it back in time to be featured on the 0 Hour pre-show. However, Hart picked up another injury in the lead-up to her match with Willow Nightingale at AEW Dynasty, which not only saw Hart drop the bout to Nightingale, but was the shortest match on the entire card by some margin. Hart is not planned to be on TV for a while, as early indications have pointed that Hart may need surgery, but that's not been confirmed as of right now. Now, as I say, she's not the only one dealing with an injury at the moment, because it looks like Powerhouse Hobbs is also injured too. On the April 24 edition of Dynamite, during his IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match with Jon Moxley, former AEW TNT champion Powerhouse Hobbs suffered a knee injury, which Brian Alvarez of Wrestling Observer Radio confirmed the following day. Fightful Select has learned that Hobbs' injury is in fact a serious one, and he'll be out of action for the foreseeable future. Now, in addition to that, it was reported over the weekend that former AEW World Champion MJF looks to have suffered a significant setback in his injury and has seemingly undergone surgery as well. MJF hasn't wrestled since being defeated by Samoa Joe at World's End back in December. Heading into that match, he was dealing with a legitimately torn labrum as well as a hip injury he had sustained during his match against Jay White at Full Gear. Now, there had been some hope that he'd be back on television soon, but that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. On April 27th, Jason Solomon of the Solomon Monster Sounds Off podcast noted on social media that it will be a while before the world champion returns, adding there's no timetable on a comeback. Now, this was followed up by a report from WrestlePurist, who confirmed the star had suffered a setback, recently undergoing surgery. They said, quote, sources close to the situation have confirmed to WrestlePurist that MJF has undergone surgery on his left shoulder. MJF was originally aiming for a March return and met with Tony Khan in Boston to discuss creative plans. The injuries to MJF and Adam Cole have dramatically affected creative plans for MJF versus the Undisputed Kingdom feud. Max was looking to wrap the program up. There is no timetable for his return. So it looks like, again, a plethora of injuries right now for AEW. Now, tonight is night 2 of the WWE Draft on Monday Night Raw on USA Network, and many were wondering, since we saw call-ups for Baron Corbin to SmackDown and Bron Breakker switching from SmackDown to Raw, why that tag team was split up. Now, as I mentioned, the first night of the draft on SmackDown saw the former NXT Tag Team Champions Baron Corbin and Bron Breakker split up. 1 year after being declared a free agent and thus returning to NXT, Corbin will rejoin SmackDown while Bron Breakker has been drafted to Raw from the Blue brand. Fightful Select has since reported that the reason for the split is that Breakker is viewed as a major single star and Corbin is likely to get a renewed look after his call-up. Breakker has been considered a blue-chip prospect in WWE since signing a developmental deal in 2021. He has since captured the NXT Championship twice before teaming with Baron Corbin to win the 2024 Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic and the NXT Tag Team titles. Before being drafted, Breakker worked occasionally on SmackDown, including a 13-second victory over Cedric Alexander on Friday. Corbin last wrestled on the main roster on SmackDown against Pete Dunne in a Money in the Bank qualifier in June last year, which he lost in less than 2 minutes. So looks like, again, they're going to be getting pushes with Bron Breakker, but maybe Baron Corbin as well on SmackDown. A bit of an update on Tony Khan. It was revealed on AEW Collision after the attack from the Elite last week. It's been, or was certainly, quite the week for the AEW CEO Tony Khan, who took a Tony Khan or TK driver from the Young Bucks on Dynamite, got himself caught on camera wearing a neck brace on the first night of the NFL Draft, and also compared, as I mentioned, WWE to Harvey Weinstein on the NFL Network the following day. But if AEW fans wanted to know Khan's status in terms of his storyline with the Elite, they had to wait until Saturday's edition of AEW Collision, where Tony Schiavone and Nigel McGuinness suggested it might be some time before Khan returns to television. He said, quote, this was said, quote, rather, Tony Khan has suffered multiple head and neck injuries, Schiavone said. I talked with him today, and he tells me that he feels very blessed and very happy that he's still able to work. However, doctors have advised Tony Khan that he cannot travel. But he'll be able to run AEW from here in Jacksonville as we travel, of course, starting with Winnipeg on Wednesday night, so that's good news. Tony is on the mend, but he'll be running our company from a remote location here in Jacksonville, end quote. Now, McGuinness, for his part, confirmed that Khan won't be with AEW on the road before asking an important question, quote, what happens if something goes awry on the road? Who's going to run things? I mean, I would have to think, ironically as it is, maybe the EVPs. Now, McGuinness was referring to the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, whose backstage role as executive vice presidents has bled into AEW's fictional world. It seems likely that the Bucks, along with their compatriots Kazuchika Okada and Jack Perry, will be serving as heel AEW authority figures for an undisclosed period of time, an angle that is already being compared to the notorious New World Order in WCW. But interestingly, AEW has announced that on Wednesday's edition of Dynamite in Winnipeg, it will feature the return of Kenny Omega, the former member of the Elite, who was unceremoniously fired by the Bucks while he was at home being treated for diverticulitis. Of course, he is also an EVP. So do you think that we could see maybe Kenny Omega serving as an authority figure in the future? Let me know your thoughts about that too in the comment section below. And finally, Swerve Strickland has made his first defense of the AEW World Championship on a night when AEW Collision was expected to gain a big ratings leading from Game 3 in the NBA playoff series between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. The show opened with Swerve Strickland's first promo as AEW World Champion. It closed with his first title defense, a main event battle against the Blackpool Combat Club's Claudio Castagnoli that saw the new champion emerge victorious. Strickland's show opening promo hit all the standard babyface notes, declaring this is the Dynasty era, a tribute to his title win, which took place at the first ever AEW Dynasty pay-per-view, and promising to fight to make his reign worth all the sacrifices he'd made to achieve it. He closed by issuing an open challenge to defend his title that very evening in Jacksonville, and Castagnoli immediately answered, setting up a 21-minute barn burner in the main event. The match was built around a trifecta of swerve stomps, the finishing move that Strickland used to win the championship at Dynasty. He actually hit the first one on Castagnoli a little more than halfway into the match, but Castagnoli kicked out. He then turned a house call attempt into a giant swing. Later, Strickland tried the stomp again. This time, the infamously strong Castagnoli caught him, balancing Strickland on his shoulders for a moment before dropping him into a European uppercut. This time, it was Strickland who managed to kick out. Finally, in the closing sequence, Castagnoli popped Strickland up into the air, likely going for another European uppercut, but Strickland brought his feet down instead, hitting the stomp from out of nowhere, and this time immediately following up with the house call for the victory. Strickland celebrated in the ring with Prince Nana as Collision went off the air. But there you go, guys, the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.